Hello, future. I want to share an interesting thing that I've been thinking about. Egyptian mythology. So I'm busy preparing for History Club today. We're going to do Egypt, and we're even going to bear with me. I'm going to teach them about mummifying. Obviously, how could I not use toilet paper to mummify? I'll tell them they use linen, but we'll pretend this is linen. Got a lot of fun things planned. But I just realized something I wanted to share with you is, just after revising Egyptian mythology, it's some things really become so evident. It's just incredible how inconsistent it was. So inconsistent. You get one account of Hathor, the goddess, the Eye of Ra, one of the eyes of Ra, goddess of motherhood, maternity, represented as a cow. Some accounts say that, oh, Hathor was the mother of Horus, the falcon god, one of the oldest gods. And then some accounts say, oh no, but Hathor was actually the wife of Horus. There's such a huge difference. There is a huge difference. Another thing is the story of creation, where one account says that, oh, it used to be a void of nothingness called Nun, and N-U-N, not N-O-N-E, none. Well, it would suit it being nothingness. And then out of none rose land, and the sun came and created the other gods. And then one other account in Memphis says that, oh no, it was the god Ptah that spoke the world into existence with wise words. There's such a huge difference. And why I think there's this huge inconsistency in mythology with Egypt, and why to anyone it's a nightmare to explain Egyptian mythology. I mean, even you just Google Egyptian mythology, or you just put onto YouTube, and you see endless videos of all these things and crazy stuff, and you look at original records of all these different gods, and you're always finding out there's new ones you never ever heard about. Even this book, I heard of a few that I've never heard about. And I think this inconsistency exists because of how long Egypt's history was, 3,000 years, roughly. And the problem about this is that word gets distorted within the culture and society. Just like how um, the Ptolemaics were closer to our time than they were to the invention of the pyramid itself. The Ptolemies, the last dynasty in ancient Egypt, you could argue. And it's really, I think that's, yeah, it just shows how, you tell your child something and then they'll tell something else. And writing helps keep a bit of consistency, but even the writing can get confused and lost, and you invent new deities in new places, in new city-states. I mean, I heard that I read in this book that the Egyptians didn't even call themselves Egypt. They didn't really have a word for their country. They refer to themselves as the two lands, Upper and Lower Egypt. And evidence is through the crown, the double crown, you can see. So um, it's crazy, and one naturally wants to link it to another one of the longest lasting religions, which is Christianity. And me being so familiar with it, being raised on it, with that means there's bias. Um, there's even inconsistency there. Like one book says Judas Iscariot, the disciple that betrayed Jesus, hung himself after dawn when he betrayed Jesus. But then another source says, oh, he stumbled into a field and was gutted. There is a big difference. Big difference. It's like imagine 2,000 years later, and I'm in some sort of myth, and it's like, ah, yes, Gareth Sefton, the the history the history showman with his wife slash spouse. It's is that the type of distortion that happens, and it's not as bad as a distortion like me being now known as a carrot instead of a human being called Gareth. That's the type of translations that can happen, but not as bad as a mother being confused with the wife. I can understand how and why that happens, but the bottom line is if that is even able to happen, the whole story itself comes into doubt. And we know in modern times that Egyptian mythology is pretty much 100% made up nonsense. Um, a chariot riding across the, not a chariot, it was actually what is it called again? A barge or something, some sort of boat used for ceremonies that Ra rides across the sky. We we've well, okay, we haven't been to the sun as humans, but we've been to Mercury, which is much closer to the sun. Mercury's even a god's name as well. You see, it just shows. Anyway, so another question that this raises, which I want to make the last little point in this video, is I get how Christianity could and can last for so long. Basically, just under 2,000 years. It technically started 100 years after Christ died, because that was where it really, all the stuff was written down. So just about 2,000 years compared to Egypt's 3,000 years. It comes close, 2/3 of the way. And what this makes you start to think is, I can understand how Christianity can last so long. Because actual events happened that were recorded by even other sides of the story. The Romans um, recorded the Christians. So we pretty much 100% know that they existed. They were physical people, the disciples and Jesus. So I can understand how churches can still use the Bible today. And it provides evidence, because trust me, humans are creatures of common sense. I can go make up some sort of religion now, but if it has not got a leg to stand on, people will shoot it down. Christianity has a very strong leg to stand on, and a huge advantage of being so long ago in history that we can't go back in time and dispute it. We simply cannot go and see if Jesus really did exist, which he probably did, but who he really was. Was he actually just a magician, or was he actually the Messiah? But now with Egypt, where is it? With Egypt, there was no evidence of Ra and Ptah and Hathor. No, they, they invented writing, for crying out loud, technically after these things happened. Writing was already a thing when Jesus visited Earth. So how did the Egyptians, how were they able to keep this slight mess of a ideology alive for so long? That's the mystery, and that's what I put to you to think about, and what I'm thinking about a bit. I mean, I think the fact that's already, like I've already said in the rest of this video, the fact that it's already so inconsistent and full of holes and pretty much a big mess, shows that, yeah, people did make up stuff as they went. There wasn't a leg to stand on. But also they had a lot less scientific methods to meter, to measure the world around them. So they couldn't go to the moon to see if it really was Horus's eye. So that is enough to keep literally hundreds of generations believing in the same thing. But yeah, it's quite interesting. Hey, it's quite interesting how that happened, and you could say it's probably just oral traditions passed down. You just didn't question it. I mean, there wasn't an age of enlightenment in Egypt. you pretty much would have probably just accepted what you were told by the holy, sacred priests at Karnak Temple, the 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 clean ones, the sacred ones, and the authority of the pharaoh. So yeah, you find the average person really was just a peasant that just didn't think about things a lot. But I'm sure there were many people who did. And you'll also find, last thing in the video, is it makes you think about how many atheists were there in ancient times. Hey? Or should I rather say heathens? But heathens is a very religious-centric term. Um, just like Egypt, they believed that Seth was the god of destruction and turmoil, and you could see him represented as famines and foreign invasions. But then to the foreigners they were invading, it was a whole nother perspective. And the Egyptians were very guilty of invading as well, Nubia and also Syria. They invaded, and they were doing a Seth on them, but to them it wasn't a Seth. It wasn't a Seth thing to do because they were the center of the universe. So it makes you think, how many atheists were there in ancient Egypt? People who didn't believe or who just simply thought that this is nonsense. It's a very good question, because I think a bit of a misconception, quite a serious misconception in modern times. So think, oh, ancient Egypt, they all worship Ra and the Egyptian gods, and all Romans were, Jupiter, followed Jupiter, and all Greeks, they, the pantheon and the gods on Olympus. But I think there were people who, just like in today, religion is just another facet of life. Most people don't even can go a whole day without talking about religion. Most Christians, it's only on Sundays, it's, religion, then you get back to the secular economic world. However, there's a difference with modern times. The fact that we've had our Westphalia moment when, after the 30 Years' War in 1648, um, the Catholic and Protestant nations signed a treaty saying that they should separate church and state. And that's why they argue the Middle East has so much war, is because they haven't had their Westphalia moment. Church and state are still very linked. So, and just like in the ancient times, church and state were very linked. Egypt was probably the paragon of church and state. It was a prime example of the pharaoh was a living god, as they believed. So, yeah, it makes you think there probably were a lot less atheists in ancient times. Firstly, less methods to measure the world around them, and, like I say, probably a bit more ignorance and a lot more church and state. So anyway, it's something that I want you to think about future, and something that I've been thinking about, and it will aid in teaching about Egypt today at History Club. So yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun with the kids today. I've got a few ideas. I'm going to play a game with them where I'm going to let all the kids tell me everything they know about Egypt. I'm going to write it all down on the whiteboard, fact after fact. I want to hear everyone's ideas and facts. And then we're going to play a game where we eliminate facts, where we separate fact from fiction. And I'm going to draw a big line across the facts that actually weren't right, and maybe like circle the things that were right. And I'll explain to them, because I bet many of them are going to say like mummies and mummies came back to life. That will be fiction. But the fact they did mummify will be fact anyway. So yeah, thank you very much. Guess I'll see you in the next diary entry.